Sounds good.
All right, and I guess I can go ahead and I normally have the thing playing in my head because that was a very fun track I found on the YouTubes.
Mm.
Hello, travelers, and welcome to another episode of Hitchhiker's Guide to Ethical Non-Monogamy, E&M for short. I am your host, Ike, also known as Hito in certain circles, and I'd like to welcome you back into another episode of this lovely podcast of mine, to where today we have a special guest by the name on IG of Polyamorous while Asian.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on.
It is a pleasure having you on. First guest of the year, so that's kind of dope.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now, to give a quick brief of how I came across your, honestly, your content, I have my, I call it my Kinkstagram because there was a point in my journey of, because I am involved in BDSM and kink and also polyamorous, and there was a point to where I had so many things convoluted where I have friends celebrating marriage and kids, and then the next thing you see is a story of, you know, whatever be a non-monogamous thing, then a kink thing, and it just kept going like where I don't even think Instagram knew how to algorithm my whole situation. And so I had to make
many multitudes, yeah.
it was like, okay, he's freaky, he's a lover, and he has friends with kids, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and separate church and state. I'll keep my college friends and vanilla friends on one side, and then everything else on this other side. And in the midst of that, they finally got the algorithm right, where they started offering things like marry. Is it marginally or marry generally? But they offered like her. They offered polyphilia blog. They offered La Vida Loca, and then I came across you, Polyamorous while Asian, and you share a lot of dope stuff. And I was like, let me reach out to some of these people. And she's the second person to reply, but the first person to get on. So there's that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The people that you've listed, yeah, all great content creators in this space, especially a space that's, not to get like too into it immediately, but a space that's predominantly white.
Yeah, and one thing, because I did the last episode talking about race and polyamory, and not in the sense to where, because I hate the direction that these things go whenever we bring up the R word, and then people think automatically assuming like, oh, we're doing victim thing, or we're trying to. No, it's just that some old people that are no longer here made a lot of rules that screw us all over, and because of that, some within our own community don't even realize that there are certain things that can also be for us. It's not just for the unmelanated or the Eurocentric. It could be for everybody, and it was for everybody at a point, but things typically change in the thousands of years of living.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how things have changed and how non-monogamy in general has become has been getting slowly more into the mainstream. That's been interesting to see.
See, because what was it? Because I'm in this other group, someone shared a picture. I have not yet confirmed it, but apparently there's a Peacock original called Couple the Thruple.
Yes, I've seen that trailer, and someone from their team emailed me to do one of those like promo, like, oh, watch the first episode and then talk about it, and I just did not reply because watching that trailer was painful enough.
Because what was it last year? They had was it Brother Husbands last year, or because there was another show I think on TLC that involved polyandry, where it's like one woman and two men, and I remember I never watched. ADHD right now. TV I'm so on the level of disinterest with TV where I would watch something for 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm over this. So I never watched that one. Couples of Thruples is just now. The way I see this is not that polyamory and non-monogamy is going mainstream. Is more so people are seeing that there's some profitability in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's often what happens when things go mainstream is that they're almost immediately co-opted and then like, oh, how can we make money off of this? And also still center the status quo and not have it be too threatening, but if anything, still just make it entertaining and profitable. Yeah.
And of course, these shows not cater to the non-monogamous people. It's catered to the standard in society, where they're the
Right.
ones that are gonna look at this and laugh and like gain entertainment from it. Meanwhile, those who are been in this space, they're gonna look, they're gonna cringe, and maybe you might be surprised. We might be surprised here or there, where it's like, oh, quite insightful. Okay, cool. What healthy communication? Y'all actually are doing that. I doubt it, but I like to be an optimist.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's definitely made for the monogamous gaze, and those reality shows are they always, I mean, like the quote unquote reality TV, right, where they're always trying to provoke people to be their worst selves, anyway. So yeah, it's I I do try to be an optimist, but I don't have high hopes for a positive non-monogamous representation here.
Okay, now, so whenever I do these interview things or things like that, honestly, we're just talking and vibing. I am not well equipped as far as like interview goes. I'm not trying to pull a Shannon Sharp because all the journalists roast the Shannon Sharp. So let me go ahead and say it. We're just here to vibe, talk about certain things, and maybe something might pique our interest. But you bringing up the like, of course, like I said, capitalism, money to be made from it, brings me back to a thought I had like a few weeks ago, where I was thinking all these dating apps, they've been getting it wrong, because they like literally non-monogamous is like an unlimited market. It's kind of like how doctors got into, which I learned last year, that doctors delivering babies is not even like 100 years old. So my mind was blown. But like doctors got into the baby game because babies will always be born. So guess what? You're always going to have someone come in the hospital. Same thing with these dating apps. Like they should have picked up early. Like, yo, we should really like, tap into the non-monogamous market, because guess what they're always going to be doing? Dating.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the apps, like Hinge, has that tagline of the app that's made to be deleted, when obviously they want you to keep using the app. So they clearly don't want you to delete it and to stop using it. Non-monogamous people, we're gonna be dating. We're gonna be dating and dating more than monogamous people in some cases. Yeah, so right now there's only what, like Field, there's hashtag open, like OkCupid was one of the first of like the kind
Yes.
of older, I don't know, OkCupid was always in between kind of the old guard and new guard, but that was one of the first to have the non-monogamous option. And
See,
it's,
I
yeah.
I count OkCupid as the old guard because they had an actual website.
Yes, that's true. That's true. It was the bridge, I think, between like Plenty of Fish and Match and say like Tinder. But yeah. It had a website, so that is a
Yes, that
good
like
distinction.
if you had a legit like www dot, and then it pulls up a full functional website, not a
Yes.
like, oh, built for like, no, like, because OkCupid is where I found my anchor partner back in New Year 2020. So yeah, that's why like personally I keep telling people that OkCupid was my favorite. Keyword on was, because once they started Tinderfying themselves, it's
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah, the
you
downfall
know,
of OkCupid.
like ain't no one answering these questions, and like, because before you get to click on the profile, you get to read what they got, read the questions, and then decide if you want to message them. Now it's like, click, you have this amount of time to read and decide. And even in the annoying part for me is I would swipe no, and the same person will pop right back up like a week or two later. Now it's at the point where I realize I just have to block them, and I feel bad because like they didn't do nothing to me. Why should I have to block them so that way my no stays a no?
Yeah, OkCupid used to be, I think, the most interesting of the apps or the sites because of all the questionnaires and their percentage match scores. And yeah, like you can filter for monogamy or non-monogamy. There was more of the culture of like a longer profile, so you can actually have more information to go off of, which I really appreciated. And yeah, I used that app and that site for so long. I think I started in
Same.
like 2013 or 2014, and I think it was only like a couple years ago where I finally stopped checking it. Yeah.
like I still look every now and again because people may come in, or I just because they have so many more features now, even down to the point where you can like let your various sexual natures be known, because they even add demi, reciprosexual. Wow, that was a mouthful. But it's like they allow a lot more customizations, which I like. I just hate the tenderification of it, where
Yeah.
you're trying to get people to like do an instant like yes, where it's like I need time to vibe out the person, which I give credit to Field, where you don't have to make an on the spot decision. Like you just keep swiping through to other people, because if you're uncertain, you can be like, all right, I'll come back to this later, which I appreciate. But Field is still young, and the problem with things are young is that they either rise very quickly, or they either rise very quickly or just die.
Yeah, Field has been okay so far. It's like it's kind of clear that they don't have a big enough team to support the app, because it's gotten better over the years, but it's still glitchy as hell. And it still has a lot of issues. And also with the like, I know it's not specifically just for non-monogamous people, it's for, alternative lifestyles in general. But the
Yeah.
fact that, you can have linked profiles, but you can, at this point, I think, can still only link to one other profile. Which is like, what? So if you're in maybe like a less hierarchical thing, or don't have an anchor partner or primary partner, you can only choose one partner to link your profile with. It's still in that kind of more mononormative lens. And I think I read that that's one thing that they're going to change eventually. But yeah, as it stands, it's yeah.
But now I will go ahead and give them some credit, because you live life a certain way for so many decades. It's kind of hard to implement certain open-minded thinking into an application, because you have a template, you're going off said template, and then you start to deviate, which I learned doing these whole like web developer courses, where it's like, oh, okay, I see why every website looks the same, because every website's using the exact same format, and that's the reason why certain websites kind of get a little buggy, because when you try to deviate, then it shakes certain things up.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely appreciate, apps like Field and hashtag Open and things like that. It's definitely much needed, and it's kind of course, going back to like capitalism and profitability, that it has to be tied to profitability. But yeah, these are very useful. I primarily meet people off of the apps, because I'm just not good at just hitting it off with people in person. So thank goodness for the apps.
Because see, I am an extrovert, so I am good in general, be it app or in person. I more so in person, because within the apps, I know myself, my temperament for I need people to talk. That's what that my temperament when it comes to like exchanges. If it stays very small talky, I am quick to just disengage, because there's only so many times you can ask me how's the weather over here. Like,
Right. What do you do? What's your favorite movie? What? Yeah, 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 yeah.
like I don't mind small talk to like break. I'm not saying drop a paragraph. It's more so like
Right.
you small talk to open up to something bigger. Like if you toss me the ball, I'm gonna write a little bit more on there and then toss it back to you. That way it's like an overall exchange, as opposed to you toss to me, I'm giving something substantial for a possible segue, and then I get a reply like, okay.
Right. Like, oh, yeah, cool.
And I am telling you, a couple of times I will cook with that okay and be like, all right, cool. Let me see if I can make a souffle real quick. All right, here's something back. I didn't see it that way. Cool. All right, let me try something else. And I'm like, and then once I stop engaging a week later, hey, why did we stop talking?
Did you ever start talking? Like, yeah, I think
So,
the old saying of like, never talk about sex or politics on a first date. I love talking about sex and politics on the first date. What else is there to talk about, Oma? Like,
like we trying to cook with some grease. Like what we're gonna do over here? Talk about because one thing I don't do. That's why I say in person I feel like I'm a lot better. I never bring a representative. I just bring myself, because like
yeah.
my top pet peeve is my time being wasted and me wasting other people's time. Like if I feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
wasting your time, I feel shitty within myself. That's why I throw it as a pet peeve. But if you're wasting my time, then I just get annoyed. Where it's like, what are we doing here? Like
Mm-hmm.
we just keep the ball rolling. So sex, politics, religion, like let's talk about who, like that's the crux of who we are.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of dating is to figure out if you're compatible or not. So if you're not hitting on the things that your own values and your interests and whatnot, then what are you doing? Yeah, like you said, like you're just kind of wasting each other's time. Hmm.
Because what I'll be damned if we get what into the third date and now learn you're a Trump supporter. That's gonna
Oh,
be upset. Like, see, this is why we nip the bud early.
yes,
I
yes,
don't need
yes.
to be because personal story. When I first started like going the route of non-monogamy, my first run at it was terrible, and not terrible because I wasn't willing to communicate or anything to that effect. It
Hmm.
was I did the whole all right, let me just see if I like the person. Cool, I like the person. Third date, I'm like, hey, I'm non monogamous. And by the third date, she was liking me too. Of course, second date, some actions happened and certain compatibilities in the bedroom were discovered. Third date happened. I'm non monogamous. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, that means I prefer this dating style. Oh, I don't know nothing about that. And then that's when I learned, yeah, you gotta let things be known, like let it be known immediately, whether you like the person or not. Like, find out if they even want to deal with you first.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there was one time where I was just in a particular mood and I decided to meet up with someone after not exchanging too many messages. It was just going to be like just like a one night stand hookup. So we met up at a bar and then we went back to like his place and we had sex. And afterward, I can't remember how it came up. This was probably about 5 years ago. It came up somehow like Trump, and I made like a disparaging remark about Trump, and the guy was like, "Well, what's so wrong about Trump? I have friends who voted for him, and he seems." And I was just sitting there. I was still naked and stuff, and I was just like, "No, no."
And that was how the Sahara Desert was created.
Oh God, I was like, this is why I take longer to talk to people before I meet up with them, so I can figure this stuff out beforehand. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, and ladies and gentlemen listening, the overall issue is not the word Trump. It's the fact that his actions have dictated that he don't give a fuck about nobody and will throw everyone under the bus,
Hmm.
especially people that look like me and her.
Oh yeah, yeah. The only person that he cares about is himself. Yeah. Hmm.
And so that's the reason why.
Hmm.
And personally, I say I judge every single person that I judge people that vote for him because you either have A, you stupid, B, you are greedy and stupid,
Hmm.
or C, you don't give a fuck and you're greedy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard a actual reasonable argument in support of his actions that doesn't just immediately fall apart with some questioning. Yeah.
Because it's either, oh no, he's right, or it's, but my taxes though, or he's right in my taxes. That's all I hear. Like, I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? But see, this is why vetting is important.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Dating is supposed to be about, potentially filtering people out. Like we aren't supposed to be compatible with everyone, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And people are meant to be filtered out, and you're meant to be filtered out of their pools. And yeah, 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 yeah. Like being picky to a degree is very useful for everyone. Hmm.
Cause I'm like, cause I will talk about this in my next episode. Cause I am almost comfortable dating again. Not saying like, oh, I wasn't comfortable. It's just more so I'm of the belief that because I have my anchor partner
Hmm.
and I got ADHD. So one thing I don't want to do is get lost in that new energy, that new relationship
Mm.
energy, and neglect what I have. So I was like trying to make sure first off my pockets are right because being non-monogamous, just like existing anywhere, not cheap.
Not cheap.
I'm trying to make sure I get my organizational skills down because I have Google Calendar, but guess what I don't do? Use Google Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
lastly, I do want my anchor partner to feel secure in the relationship because because this is the one question I hate when I hear from people that are wondering about non-monogamy is, how do I cure jealousy? And I'm like, that's not how any of this
Mm,
works. Like, you can't cure human
no.
emotion. What you can, like, you can't dictate. Like I say, you can't be wrong for your feelings because you can't dictate it. Like, I can't tell myself be angry at this situation. Now I'm just angry.
Mm-hmm.
You can only control like your actions from said emotions. Like if I'm angry, and I punch a wall, I didn't punch a wall because I was angry. Like that's not an excuse. Like I can be angry
Mm-hmm.
and still control my actions. And so same thing with jealousy. My go-to whenever I'm jealous is I use logic to get myself out of it because
Mm-hmm.
more times than not, that jealousy is born from fear, and more times than not, fear is unreasonable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I get out of my head whenever it's like a jealous moment. But also, I have to be mindful of my partner because she has her coping mechanisms for certain emotions. But one of them really does fall in, and you make sure that she's secure. So why do I hold off from dating? It's because I want to make sure that we are solid, and I don't neglect her as a partner because we've been together 4 years. Yeah, 4 years now. And
Nice.
so it's you gotta make sure that like my whole thing is I don't want to end up like ruining something I have now for something that can potentially happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I think right there's the that tendency for a lot of non-monogamous people, and I've experienced this myself as well, of the gotta catch 'em all and the eyes bigger than the
Pokemon.
stomach, right? Exactly. Gotta catch 'em all, yeah. And it's like, just because we theoretically have the capacity to connect with other people doesn't mean that we have the time or the energy and all of that other stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And me specifically, I am a relationship anarchist, so that kind of it does help me out because like the reason why I identify more as a relationship anarchist than a polyamorous person
Mm-hmm.
because with relationship anarchy it is a more global in terms of relationships, like not just simply romantic relationships, it's family, it's friends, it's platonic
Mm-hmm.
partners. So that's where the anarchy lies, where we are kind of like, treating all relationships as something that of significance. And so that helps me also because it helps my brain recognize, like, for example, my anchor partner, also my nesting partner. Those things are already established to where said next partner, it could be just simply, oh, we just hook up on a Thursday. That's where we are. That's what we talked about. That's where we communicate. It could be
Mm-hmm.
another partner. Oh, we just read on Saturday. Like it can be a lot more compartmentalized,
Mm-hmm.
and it works for me versus something like kitchen table poly or garden table garden party where
Mm-hmm.
there are certain established norms that personally I would fail with. So
Mm.
that's why I'm glad I discovered what I discovered that works for me.
Yeah, I think personally, one of the best things that I have discovered in exploring non-monogamy the past like 10 plus years is the kind of a la carte nature of it, where it's like, oh, you can kind of really pick and choose what you would like out of your different dynamics and your relationships, of like, just like you were saying, where it's like, oh, so maybe some are more sexual, some are more romantic, some are more platonic, some you only see maybe once a month, twice a month, some you like, maybe this is a partner that I love going to the movies with. This is a partner that I love just hanging out, and maybe we don't talk a whole lot, but we're just like kind of doing parallel play and we're reading together or something like that. And how that expands beyond just the romantic relationships to all of our relationships. Because, yeah, so like these days, I can find it difficult to try to, when someone asks me, like, oh, how many partners do you have, or this and that, I'm like, I less and less understand like what is the difference between maybe a partner or a friend in some cases, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like there are some that are like partner friends or friend partners, and I just feel like the words aren't enough to be able to describe what this relationship actually is. What is a good shorthand for that? And I'm still trying to figure that out, and I think it's continuing to evolve. And and at the end of the day, I think as long as the person and I understand what our dynamic is it really doesn't matter what like short and sweet label that we put onto it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what was it? Wow, I was just literally thinking about it. I think that was like one of my failures, and I'm gonna say failures. That's the wrong term. One of my shortcomings in monogamy was the concept of labels, like that. Because it's not as if I was afraid of commitment. Like, it wasn't as if I was over here like, oh, I don't want to be this with you. It was more like, I am this with you. Why do we have to throw a title on there? And that was one of my aversions with it. Because again, with monogamy, there is certain escalator things tied to it where, talking, dating, relationships, engagement, married. So it's like, I get why, because that's just the status quo, but I always had an aversion to it when I was like monogamous, because it just felt like restricting. And that's kind of where like I literally took a sabbatical from dating. It was like a 4 or 5 year sabbatical, because I realized, like, after that, my last ended relationship, I'm like, what am I doing this for? Like, who made these rules? And I literally just stopped dating. I didn't care about looking for someone or finding my person, quote unquote. Cause I was like, what's going on here? And then eventually I happened upon the concept of non-monogamy, of polyamory, and where it kind of was more in tune with how I wanted, like, my relationships to look. And so that actually kind of just helped me break that concept of a label, because it's still a label, but doesn't feel as restricting as it did prior.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's the difference. Like, labels can be very helpful. Like, of course, I use labels. Like, it's helpful for me to describe my experience as, say, solo polyamorous and bisexual, with also the acknowledgement that those terms can mean so many different things to different people. But it's just a starting point for how we can describe ourselves. And that language, just by its nature, is metaphorical. We can only do our best to approximate reality with words. And yeah, labels should be descriptive rather than prescriptive.
Yeah. I mean, people are still struggling with the concept of bisexual and pansexual. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
all right. Now, you did say that you've been polyamorous 10 plus years. How did your journey begin overall?
Yeah. So I think it's hard to pinpoint in a way because, like, as a child of divorce, I think I grew up with
Up top,
certain.
child divorce too.
Woohoo.
Well, by age 18, but yeah, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, okay, right. And so like our upbringing, probably, seeing ways in which monogamy didn't work, which doesn't mean that, monogamy never works, but just seeing the ways in which it just kind of falls short. And so not necessarily having the vocabulary for it, but just having these thoughts of, like, when I watch a rom-com where, like, someone has to choose between two people, it's like, don't adults have a thing they can do to share? Like, can they communicate and maybe schedule off, like, oh, I get you Tuesdays and Thursdays or something, and then I was still, like, for all intents and purposes, still on the monogamy train, until I met someone who would become my first partner, and he gave me the book Sex at Dawn to read, and that was the first time I think I encountered the terms non-monogamy and polyamory and all of that, and it just clicked. Reading that book clicked. Like, I haven't read the book since then, so I don't know how well it holds up or not. But encountering the formal language around it, yeah, it helped make it click, and monogamy just did not make sense for me anymore. And eventually, I realized that I was non-monogamous by orientation rather than just simply as a lifestyle. And so, yeah, I just haven't turned back since.
Okay. Because it's just so. I talked about this a couple times, but I kind of same thing as you were discussing, where you're kind of like, what's going on here? Why is this the only way? Because like, when I discovered non-monogamy, I remember back to when I was like almost teen, where I saw my parents fighting, and in my head it was like, what are we doing here? Like, I told myself in my youth, I get in a relationship, I want a partnership where me and whoever I'm with, we're making the rules, because I'm tired of the whole, like, oh, I'm the man and you're the woman, you do as this and I do as, like, I was like, I'm sick of all that. I want to find a partner where we make up the rules. And this was before puberty, so it wasn't even like sexual things. It's just purely like, you kind of get tired of, like, seeing, like, fights like that where it's like y'all supposed to be working together. Like, what's the point in all this? But also,
Mm-hmm.
I was the busy know-it-all kid that kept asking why on things that
Yeah,
refused
yeah,
to take an answer of like because I said so. So the way I see it, because could I just be monogamous today and just hey dating one person only? Could I do that? Sure. And then the question comes up to, but why?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, would we be like truly happy and would we be able to be our authentic selves fully in like a purely monogamous relationship? Like personally, no. I would eventually become very miserable. Hmm.
Because I don't like feeling restricted in a world that already does what it can to restrict me. That's just really how I
Hmm.
feel about it.
Yeah, and there are no good reasons to like restrict non-monogamy. Like any more than there are any good reasons to like abolish monogamy or something. It's just let people do what they do, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, you're not hurting anyone. Yeah.
And by hurt, we mean by be no detrimental harm. Now,
Yeah, as
inconvenience is
opposed to
different.
like, oh, being inconvenienced or like offending my sensibilities or something like that. It's like, no, if you're not, we're not stealing your husbands and wives. It's like, no, I don't want your monogamous husbands and wives. I want my like queer non-monogamous people over
I mean,
here that you're not
besides
going to
your
date anyway.
their monogamous husbands are in the DMs of other monogamous single women. So
Right? Yeah. And yeah, the denial is a hell of a drug.
I thought it was a river.
Uh,
All right, now because I mean it's in your name, polyamorous while Asian. Now, on my sensibilities, I'm Nigerian, Igbo specific, so non-monogamy is not a foreign concept. Strictly Igbo. I can't speak for Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, Efik. Like there are so many cultures over there. Strictly Igbo. There is the concept of polygyny was the concept, but it wasn't polygyny on the backs of like you get you just get how many wives you want. Got to catch them all. It was
mm-hmm.
more in the sense that you have to be capable of like maintain a household with multiple wives. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna marry you, I'm gonna marry you, I'm gonna marry you. No, it's I have the farmland, I have the like the property, I have all these things to have you live comfortable. So that's the concept, at least on the Igbo side of things. And as far as like family Catholic, raised Catholic, so we weren't even really introduced to that form of living. Even though my dad tried to pull that off, and that's the reason why a child of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But at least on what would be for your background as far as like how would non-monogamy polyamory be looked at least now again because yes polyamorous while Asian but I can't just say Asia because I mean y'all got Russia in there, there's
Oh,
India,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like so
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
how
it's
would it
so
look at
like
least
right.
in your community?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that non-monogamy isn't really a thing, like generally. And I will just speak from like more of like an Asian American experience, like a Chinese
Mm-hmm.
American experience. I don't know firsthand what it's like, like in China or Taiwan, where my mother's family is from. I would say that even though Taiwan, with regard to like legislation, is probably one of the more like LGBTQ friendly, like East Asian, nations. Non-monogamy is still a very fringe thing, and for me and my family, I know it would be looked at just they would think I was weird and like hopefully it's just a phase or something like that. And yeah, there isn't a whole lot of non-monogamy in the mainstream in certain there's a certain god I'm like the names are escaping my brain right now. There's a certain culture within China where they do what's called like quote unquote walking marriages, where they'll have like men and women who can engage in like romantic or sexual relationships, but they aren't like legally binding and till death do us part, where it's like a woman can it's a bit more matriarchal and like a man can come and they can like spend the night together but he's got to be gone by morning and like there isn't a cultural obligation to be like, oh, now we are just together, and that you have to depend on me and I have to depend on you solely. It's a bit more communal. But that is a little, that's not the norm within China. Yeah.
Oh, I will say though, because the way you were describing that, it took me to this documentary that I remember watching, where China's having a single man problem, which is why there's a lot of money that goes into sex dolls, because there's not enough women to keep up with the population of men because of that one child policy that happened. And I feel like, hey, polyandry, possible solution.
Right.
Multiple men get happy, not as many children being born at once, and look, hey, I'm just spitballing.
Oh yeah, yeah, a lot of ramifications, a lot of consequences with that policy. But yeah, I think like even in Japan, I was reading an article recently about how like a lonely men problem as well, and that it's not necessarily just like involuntarily, but like a lot of people are voluntarily single now, and that it is, for Japan, that they are seeing it as a sort of economic crisis because, like, oh, who will like replace the population and all that. Like I'm not an economist. I don't know the geopolitics of it well enough to go into it, but it is
Cliff
very
notes.
interesting.
No, the cliff notes is if the birth rate drops, they've seen like because there's only so many times you see the birth rate drop. The overall concept is when the birth rate drops, the money that comes in drops, and that's the overall fear. Even though
Right.
we've somehow climbed up to 8 billion people,
Yeah.
but that aside, I kind of feel like it is a global lonely man problem, and that's the reason why we're in the shit that we're in now. It's just
Yeah.
because I do know I did read the article because the article I read was more about how just in general various nations are no longer having sex like that. And so Japan is notorious for it, where like they're just not having sex like that. And because Japan is such xenophobic is a strong word, but it's Japan because from what I've read, Japan is so insular, where it's if you're not Japanese, then you're just a weird. Like we don't want you because it's so insular. That's another reason why that the growth has shrunk, and because Japan's a self-sustaining island. Like everything is all within the island. They don't want to import the help, and it's weird overall weird. But yeah, it's a global
Yeah.
lonely man problem, and my fellow penis wielders have put it on ourselves. Like we're the cause of all this,
And
and I don't
it's
like it.
interesting too, because like, I mean, the thing is just life is becoming more and more expensive. Like, just like speaking from the United States, where it's like there are many reasons why I've decided that I will not be having children. Like, first of all, I just don't like just for personal reasons. I just don't personally find it think it would be fulfilling. Also, how helping to raise a human being is very expensive, and we don't really have like these communities and like villages to help take care of people. You have to pay like $2,000 $3,000 a month for daycare for just like one kid, and all of these things. And we have less and less. In a hyper individualistic society, you can't even rely on grandparents or family members as much to help take care of your children, and you've got to do it by yourself or with like your one other partner, and you're just expected to help raise a fully functioning, healthy, mentally well-rounded human being. Yeah, so it's like I don't know, if people want us to have more children, make it a more accessible thing. Yeah.
Make it easier, because I'm of the mind where I'm in the don't mind territory, but my thing is I'm not economically sound right now. Am I paying the bills? Yes. If I break a leg, will things go to shit? Yes. Like I don't. It's like I don't have like if I'm not comfortable within myself, where we don't even have a kid, and I'm over here like, all right, let me make sure I clock in. Let me see what I can do. Let me find quote unquote residual income somewhere. Like always trying to find money. If I'm always trying to find money, how am I gonna take care of a kid? Like I already told myself I give myself a 2-year window where maybe things will change. Otherwise, I get to 37, snip, snip. We're just gonna go ahead and do the vasectomy. I can always adopt if I'm really that pressed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, talking about like non-monogamy and families, I see examples here and there, like remodeled love is yeah, an account on Instagram where they very openly share about their kind of mixed, like polyamorous family. And there are multiple adults in the household that can help take care of the children. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to rely on just one parent or two parents. And the responsibilities are more spread out and it's more manageable. And also there's that joke of like, oh, monogamy in this economy, where, it's beneficial where you can pool your resources with multiple people, in order to, help raise the standard of living for everyone in that community. And so, yeah, that's why I talk about like politics and non-monogamy all the time, because it's not just about like, how many people we can have sex with. It's more about like, how many people can we kind of extend and rely on. And yeah, like there's just so many political ramifications and things around that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I send my joke with my other friends. She send me jokes with me where it's like, yo, just be ready to move into the commune. I'm like,
Right.
I'm here for it. Like it's ridiculous out here. Just trying to like just make sure we have a fresh source of water or so.
Oh my God. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And maybe some Wi-Fi. I don't know. It's like,
Yep. Just the bare necessities. Oh, I'm trying. What was it? Something that just escaped my mind just now. Because yeah, that was one of the things that I've noticed years ago where I don't know, again, a bunch of old people that might not even be here anymore made these rules where it's like, it used to be community and now it's all about you're on your own, and it's exhausting trying just to exist. Like that is when people ask how I'm doing, that has been my default. Like I'm existing.
I'm here.
And like, and I don't mean that to be like a dig or like, yeah, I'm just existing. Like, like this is where I'm thankful. It's not like I have depression, anxiety, or anything like that effect. But when you're just looking at the world and you're just like, what the hell is going on here? Did someone step on like the wrong bug when they went back in time? Like,
Oh my God. Right.
So yes, so that's that. I'm just thankfully I am like, because I do have like I only right now only have my anchor partner, but I do have like other play partners that's like in various places, Houston, Jersey, like where we meet up, we commune, we chat, and we fuck. Like that's the one thing I stopped doing last year, because I began realizing that I kind of bought into the slut shaming of non-monogamy. I'm like, I'm sick of this. Don't be mad because we're having fun. Because I'm into BDSM and kink stuff. I do swinging stuff. Like me and my anchor partner go to a swinger party. Like I go to hedonism yearly. Like I've reached the point of I'm tired of slut shaming non-monogamy, just because yes, it is about connection. It's about love. Love is not a finite resource. Like we can love. We have the capacity to love. But also, I'm not going to just try to treat it as if, oh yeah, it's all about love. There's no sex involved. Like,
Yeah.
I'm no longer doing the slut shaming thing, because that's me trying to appease monogamous people that don't give a fuck. They're just going to think what they want to think.
Yeah, they'll always move the goalposts. It doesn't matter if you've been in a successful relationship for 5, 10, 20 years. It'll be like, it doesn't actually work, or like you're just the one outlier or something like that. So it's like, polyamory and non-monogamy isn't all about sex, but a lot of the times it is. And for me, very much is about sex. It's about sex and also other types of connection. But it's like they're just so hyper-focused on the sex part, even more than non-monogamous people. Because they're, like we were talking about earlier about that Peacock show of like there's that combination of being maybe kind of disgusted and entertained, but also like kind of titillated of this thing that you can do. But it's just has this cognitive dissonance in their mind of like, no, it's cheating, it's unethical, it's wrong. And like they're just doing backflips trying to justify their belief that it just can't work, even though it's working like for so many people. Yeah.
No, before I joined you, I was looking. I was on the Instagram where I saw Polophilia blog. Went ahead and post America where she's in that doing her monologue on Barbie is
Barbie,
like
yeah.
polyamorous and see, told you it'll never work. Polyamorous last, it'll never work. Watching this many years,
Right. Yes. I also just saw that meme as well. Very relatable. And that's why I don't care about like trying to change minds. I don't care about responding to trolls necessarily. Like in comments, I will provide resources and information basically so any other person reads that comment thread, they can get the information that they want out of that. But like, yeah, I'm not here to change minds necessarily. I'm just here to help provide resources for the people who want to go down this path or this variety of paths that can happen. Because, like, yeah, people who engage in bad faith and don't have our interests in mind, they just really don't matter. Yeah.
Because no, there's another level to it where I purposely have it, where I even let it be known because I'm assuming that some monogamous people listen to whatever I record. And my whole thing is there's a lot that they can learn to improve their monogamy. Because one of the main things, like, ignore communication. I feel like more monogamous people will have healthier relationship if they get rid of the whole possessiveness of it all, where they feel like they get rid of the rom-com idea of I'm yours and you're mine, where it's like no, I'm me, you're you, and we're opting into this together. It's like there's so many things that'll be fruitful for them because it's all relationships. It just so happened that we have relationships with multiple people. We just have we have multiple dance partners. You have one dance partner. Y'all can figure out the boogie woogie and flash dance and all that, and you don't have to come on this side. It's okay because I refuse to be a person that's like, oh, monogamy is not natural.
No, that's silly.
We're
Yeah.
we're not natural. Like you compare all the creatures in the world, we're the ones that stand out are the weirdos. Like we're the ones that we make things up as they come. We are talking to each other via radio waves.
It's monogamy works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everyone. And that's it. That's all I have to say basically about monogamy in general. There's mononormativity and then there's like toxic monogamy, of course, but like monogamous people can have healthier monogamous relationships by being more aware of these kind of systems and concepts. And it's like, just like you were saying, like good relationship practice is good relationship practice, whether you're doing it with just one person or you're doing it with like 4 people. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's really anything else. Like this was fun. This has been fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Vibing.
All right. You want to go ahead and I don't want to take too much of your time anymore. So you want to tell the peoples where they can find you, where they can support you, or anything to that nature?
Yeah. My name is Michelle Hai, and I predominantly just live on Instagram. I don't have the energy to go on multiple platforms. So I'm on Instagram as Polyamorous while Asian. And whenever I do post to the feed, I'll also post it to my website, polyamoroushwhileasian.com, so you don't have to just be stuck with Instagram. And yeah, I talk about non-monogamy, politics, sex positivity, and a whole bunch of other things. And Instagram is where you can find me.
All right, perfect. And once again, you can find this podcast Instagram at so the Instagram is Hitchhiker's Guide to E&M. You can follow, as I said, my Kingstagram, which is sir.hito. You can email me at hitchhikersguide@gmail.com with questions, thoughts, concerns, or just seeking some advice or you want to give some input. And that'll just be it for today. So travelers, make sure you look both ways before you cross these E&M streets, and I'll just catch you next time. Bye, y'all.